Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Wanted to send you a quick update regarding some of our financial information. In our last couple newsletters, we mentioned that we would be sending a special financial update. So here it is, and we wanted to send it via video just so you can hear our heart in the matter. But this will be a rather frank but very important bit of information from us and a new initiative that we are starting. We hope you will receive the info that we are conveying to you with the intention, with what we're intending it to be, with humility, but also with confidence that God is going to provide, and that as the great provider, He has given us the right path forward. Hopefully, even through the course of this quick video and even the document that I've attached to the email, hopefully some of the unique challenges about life living in two countries, living and ministering here, but having responsibilities back in the US, but living in a context that's not our home. I hope that the difficulties of living in these two worlds will become clear through this, and hopefully will be at the very least interesting, but also I hope also motivating to jump on board and assist us. So we'll not bury the lead regarding this. We need to increase our monthly support by at least 20% over our current level. We've had the same monthly support from individuals, from families, from churches since we moved to South Africa, which is over 5 years now. We've never increased it. Even though if you look at the broader economic indicators in South Africa, we should have probably increased it many times over. Simply put, the cost of living has drastically changed over the last 5 years that we've lived here. And our support has not kept pace because we haven't done the work of raising our support at all over these last 5 years. A few indicators, just for those of you that are interested in the economics of it all. From the month we moved here in September of 2016 until this last month, fuel is up by 110%. Our ministry is growing, so we're driving more than we ever have before as we seek to do what God's called us to here in this part of South Africa. A few others, so cost per kilowatt hour of electricity is up over 60%. Consumer price index up 21% over the same period. You know what these indicators mean. It means that the cost of living has gone up. Given our current funding model and how we've raised support in the past and how God has provided for us to live here thus far, we have to raise our own support. So automatic cost of living increases like a, quote, regular employer would give to their employees. It's just simply not something that we deal with. It's not part of our financial equation. So it falls to us to continue to raise support, even as we have already become fully supported. We still have to continue to raise our support as the economics dictate. And we've not done a good job of that. Mostly because we feel like we're constantly asking for project funds, for visas, for musical productions, for camp sponsorships, all of that stuff. And we don't want to be perceived as just continuing to ask for money ad nauseum. However, the simple facts on the ground dictate that we must increase our current monthly support. It's worth pausing and reflecting about, on the difficulty of such a prospect given the current economic climate, both in the U.S., in South Africa, and honestly around the world. Inflation is rising in the U.S. We know this. The U.S. is basically at the same rate today that South Africa experiences every single year, but that doesn't diminish the pressure being felt by most families across the U.S., across North America, and probably by you who are listening to this. Fuel and energy costs are rising as well. Who knows what all of the economic ramifications will be in the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Whatever the economic repercussions, the entire world is impacted. We understand this, so we wish we didn't need to make this appeal right now at this particular time, but it cannot be helped. And if you're wondering how we've continued, even with the rising costs, continue to exist over the last 5 years. It's basically because of an increasingly favorable exchange rate. So we've been it's allowed us to buy more in South Africa today than we would back in 2016 when we moved here, but use the same amount of dollars. And so it's been helpful over the last 5 years, that's for sure. Unfortunately, the relative strength of the US economy, which drove that favorable exchange rate, that strength is diminishing relatively, and that's due to all of the above things, inflation, fuel prices, all that sort of stuff. It seems like that steady increase has, in fact, leveled off. It doesn't look like it's going to decrease right now. There's no strength in the South African economy to pull it back down, but it does look like it won't be increasing for the foreseeable future. So we can't keep depending on our ability to leverage the exchange rate to keep things going. We ought to acknowledge, too, that aside from all the economics, the fact that our finances have continued is simply God's provision. Sometimes it's unexpected one-time gifts that he has burdened somebody with that's come along. Sometimes there's a sudden drop in an expense for some reason, or, he simply stretches things further than we could ever have predicted just looking at the numbers. He's always faithful, and we don't have any fear of the future. For wherever he sends, whoever he sends, he's going to provide for them. And so we are confident that he will continue to provide for us. And yet, he calls on us to take part in that provision. He calls on us to work for our income, to boldly ask for God's people to support Great Commission workers in an ongoing and sacrificial way. We cannot come to visit the U.S. until the end of this year. We cannot have person-to-person meetings for several months yet. So we've decided to go ahead and make this appeal remotely from this side, and hope to at least get much of the ball rolling before we come for a visit to the States at the end of 2022. So we've decided to craft this sort of fundraising initiative and give it a name and have a plan on our side. So we're calling it the 315 Initiative. It is a special fundraiser that is directly for our family and ministry support. This is not project funds. This is our personal support raising. So a couple things. Why on earth is it called that? Why did we come up with this 315 idea? One of our favorite verses in the Bible is Genesis 3:15. It is the promise, the very first promise in the scriptures of a Redeemer to come. It's right at the beginning of the Bible. And so it's just a beginning. It's just a hint of all that God was going to do in his redemptive plan. It's such a privilege to serve here in Neisner. And although we've been here for 5 years now, in many respects, the work is just beginning. It's just starting. There is so much more that God is going to do here along the southern coast here in South Africa. And we hope that you will continue to be part of it, or if you haven't been part of it yet, that you will come on board, because we've just begun. One aspect to this initiative is that we are committing for a couple weeks, for at least several weeks. We're going to send an email and a social media post every couple days, maybe every week, with a very short, 2 to 3 minute video highlighting some aspect of ministry or just life here in Neisner. It might be directly ministry related, or something really awesome about this place that we'd love to share with you. We want to more effectively and more personally show you all that God is doing here and all that you are a part of. So, some specifics about the financials here. Following on the theme of the initiative, 315, we have 3 15s to ask about. So the first one is that we are asking that all of our current monthly supporters would you consider a $15 increase in monthly support? Many of you listening to this, you already support us, and you have done so for many years at a very great sacrifice to yourself. And so we're incredibly grateful to you. Quite simply, we wouldn't be here without you. Would you consider increasing your support? If not by $15, then 10 or even 5. Every single bit helps. We have a large number of individual families that support us monthly. And together, even with such a relatively small amount of $15, together you can have a massive impact on us as a family. So that's the first aspect. The first 15 is that we're asking for $15 increases from our current monthly supporters. The second aspect is that we're aiming to add 15 new support partners, 15 new monthly partners of any amount. And seriously, when we say any amount, we actually mean it. 60% of our monthly support comes from families that contribute $50 or less. A quarter of our support's through gifts that are under $25 a month. Every amount is helpful, $150 or $10 a month, it doesn't matter. Every amount helps. We will not pretend, we do not presume to know your specific financial pressures and capabilities. And so we do not feel right making the blanket ask for a specific dollar amount from every person. Just know we're seeking for 15 new monthly supporters, committed long-term partners of any dollar amount to come alongside us on a monthly committed way for the sake of the gospel here in South Africa. And the final 15 is that we're looking for 15 individual one-time gifts, also of any amount, really. 15 one-time gifts. And the aim for this is to build up a reserve for travel expenses. We are responsible for all of our travel expenses when we return to the US. We don't have an agency or entity that provides for that. That's not part of how we have come to South Africa and part of the agencies that we're with. So we must buy plane tickets, we must rent vehicles, we must have housing, all that sort of stuff when we travel. And yes, now we have to buy 5 plane tickets because Lily is certainly big enough for her own seat. So furlough and visits to the US can get quite expensive. And these expenses ought not to be put onto credit cards. They really just shouldn't be. So we're looking to build a reserve fund that we would contribute to every month, but we're looking for 15 gifts that will really help kickstart this fund so that we can begin to plan for even this trip later this year in a way that will not add debt or anything like that. So would you consider a one-time gift with the aim of building up a reserve fund? So we're looking for 15 increases from supporters, 15 new partners, and 15 one-time gifts. This is the sort of core of our initiative. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you for understanding this and our heart. I hope you'll understand our heart here. Please pray about this. Please pray about these specifics and whether you would come on board, whether you would increase, whether you would help in any of these ways. We hope that this situation makes sense. We hope that the economics make sense. We hope that what has happened over the last few years and why we need to take this particular course of action, why it makes sense. We would welcome any questions you have. Please drop us an email, find us on WhatsApp. We'd love to call just to chat with you about any specifics. We're an open book when it comes to this stuff. We always have been. So if you have specific questions, even as far as what things cost here and things like that, we are completely happy to talk to you. We would love to have that sort of dialogue with you. So we hope you would consider this. We hope you'll be on the lookout for our videos as we seek to highlight and to show you what God is doing here every few days. So keep an eye out for those. But most of all, would you pray for us? We are privileged to serve here in the Garden Route of South Africa. We are privileged to work alongside the many different cultural groups and people groups that live here in Knysna and the greater Garden Route here on the southern coast of South Africa. We love this place. We love that God has sent us here. And we cannot wait to see what God will continue to do in the future and how he's going to use you to be part of the spread of his gospel for the sake of his name, so that all peoples may know that Jesus came, that he died for us, and that in him we can have hope. So thank you for listening. We hope that you will have just a wonderful day today. Keep a lookout for these videos. We love you all very much, and we hope to hear from you very soon.